It was February 9th, 1864. Deep inside Libby Prison, a Confederate stronghold in Richmond, Virginia, over 100 Union officers were preparing for the impossible. Malnourished, weak, and enduring conditions that could break even the strongest of men. They had spent the past 17 nights working on something that would change everything. A tunnel hidden beneath the prison floors. This was more than just an escape. It was a gamble between life and death. With nothing but crude tools and sheer determination, they had carved their way toward freedom, risking discovery and execution at every turn. Now, with the clock ticking and temperatures plunging below freezing, it was time to act. This is the story of the greatest mass prison escape in American history. Before we get to the Great Escape, we must understand how they got there in the first place. The American Civil War, fought from 1861 to 1865, was one of the most devastating conflicts in United States history, claiming over 600,000 lives. However, the toll of war extended beyond the battlefield. Twice as many soldiers perished from disease as from combat. Poor sanitation and inadequate medical care fueled the spread of deadly illnesses among the troops. As the war dragged on, the number of prisoners of war skyrocketed, leading to overcrowded and unsanitary conditions in military prisons. By the end of the conflict, an estimated 400,000 Union and Confederate soldiers had been held as prisoners of war across various facilities. These numbers reflect not only the brutality of the fighting, but also the logistical struggles both sides faced in managing captured soldiers. One such Confederate prison facility was Libby Prison, located in the Confederate capital of Richmond, Virginia. Libby Prison had a story that began long before it became infamous as a holding facility for Union officers. Originally constructed between 1845 and 1852 as a tobacco warehouse, the complex was designed by architect Alexander Paris and operated by John Enders. Following the outbreak of the Civil War, the Confederate government seized the facility in March 1862 to accommodate the growing number of captured Union officers. The transition from a commercial enterprise to a military prison marked a dramatic shift in its purpose and reputation. The prison complex consisted of 3 interconnected buildings that occupied an entire city block. This strategic location allowed for easier control and surveillance of inmates. The upper floors housed the prisoners, while the first floor contained the offices of the Confederate Guards. Libby Prison was specifically designated for Union officers, while enlisted men were often sent to other facilities, such as Belle Isle on the James River. Despite its formidable structure, Libby Prison quickly became notorious for its overcrowded conditions and harsh treatment of inmates. Initially designed to hold a few hundred officers, by late 1863, its population had surged to over 1,000, crammed into inadequate spaces. Prisoners were assigned to sparsely furnished rooms with little more than bare wooden floors and minimal accommodations. They often slept in spoon formation to conserve body heat, turning over on command to relieve their aching bodies. Food shortages were rampant, with rations consisting of meager portions of cornbread, rancid bacon, and buckwheat soup. The lack of proper nutrition led to severe health issues among the inmates. Diseases spread rapidly in such cramped quarters. Diarrhea, dysentery, typhoid, and pneumonia became common afflictions. It is estimated that 5 prisoners perished every single day in Libby Prison. To put that into perspective, over 1,000 inmates lost their lives there during the Civil War. Reports from former inmates described the air inside as fetid and suffocating, creating an environment where despair thrived. Personal accounts from those who endured imprisonment at Libby provide harrowing insights into their experiences. One former inmate described the conditions as an aeon of agony, reflecting the psychological toll that confinement took on them. Another likened their suffering to being trapped in an inferno, where hope was all but lost. Every great story needs a hero, someone with courage and resilience who can pave the way for himself and others through the darkest of times. In Libby Prison, that hero was Colonel Thomas Rose. A man of the 77th Pennsylvania Infantry, Colonel Thomas E. Rose emerged as the central figure in the story of the Libby prison escape. His military career began when he enlisted in the Union Army at the onset of the Civil War, prior to which he had been a schoolteacher. His leadership skills and bravery quickly propelled him through the ranks. Rose distinguished himself in several key battles, including Antietam and Gettysburg, but his fate took a drastic turn at the Battle of Chickamauga in September 1863. During this brutal engagement, Rose's regiment faced overwhelming Confederate forces, resulting in significant losses. Amid the chaos, he was captured and transported to Libby Prison, where he would endure some of the war's harshest conditions. Upon arriving at Libby, Rose was appalled by the state of the prison. The overcrowded cells, inadequate food supplies, and rampant disease painted a grim picture of life behind bars. Seeing the suffering of his fellow officers ignited a fierce determination within him. He could not accept being confined in such deplorable conditions. He felt a deep responsibility to escape, return to his regiment, and continue fighting for the Union cause. Rose's resolve led him to explore various escape options. Initially, he attempted to organize a revolt among the prisoners, hoping that a coordinated effort could overpower the guards. However, this plan quickly collapsed due to a lack of support and fear among the inmates. The psychological toll of captivity had left many feeling defeated, making it difficult for Rose to rally them into action. Undeterred, Rose turned to more practical means of escape. He began collaborating with Major A.G. Hamilton, another officer who shared his unyielding desire for freedom. Hamilton, also captured at Chickamauga, possessed both military experience and a keen mind for strategy. Together, they devised several escape plans, including sneaking past guards or finding alternative routes out of the prison. But their first attempts were fraught with danger and ultimately unsuccessful. On one occasion, Rose tried to slip out through a basement window but was spotted by a guard just as he was about to make his move. Each failure only strengthened their resolve. Time was running out as rumors spread about potential prisoner transfers to even more brutal facilities further south. Recognizing that they needed a sustainable plan, Rose and Hamilton shifted their focus to tunneling. Their first two attempts at digging tunnels ended in failure. The locations were either too exposed or too difficult to conceal. They needed a strategic spot that would avoid detection while providing enough space to hide the dirt and debris from their excavation. Their eyes turned to an area of the prison known as Rat Hell, a filthy, neglected section of the basement, largely ignored by both prisoners and guards. Filled with straw and infested with rats, it was the perfect place to dig without attracting attention. Rat Hell was dark and damp, its floor covered in rotting straw. While the filth made it nearly unbearable to work in, it also provided a crucial advantage. The loose straw helped them conceal the dirt from their tunnel. Guards rarely ventured into this area due to its squalid conditions, making it the ideal hiding spot for their escape plan. But one major challenge remained. How could they dig a tunnel without any tools? Driven by unwavering determination, the prisoners turned to makeshift tools, spoons, knives, and broken pieces of wood. Working under the cover of darkness, when the guards were less vigilant, they began chipping away at the mortar between bricks, slowly creating a passageway to freedom. They started by removing a stove from the first floor to gain access to Rat Hell. From there, they began their slow, painstaking excavation, hiding the loosened dirt beneath the straw. As the plan took shape, Colonel Thomas E. Rose knew they needed a dedicated team to execute this daring escape. Colonel Thomas E. Rose carefully selected a group of trusted fellow officers who shared his determination and courage. This group consisted of men who had demonstrated their resourcefulness and commitment to the cause, ensuring that each member was reliable and capable of contributing to the tunneling effort. The team organized into shifts, allowing them to work under the cover of night. Each shift consisted of 5 men rotating in and out to maintain the secrecy of their operation. This systematic approach not only optimized their efficiency, but also fostered a sense of camaraderie among the prisoners. They shared stories and encouraged one another, creating a bond that strengthened their resolve. The tunnel measured approximately 50 to 80 feet in length and, at times, was as narrow as 16 inches wide. As they dug deeper into the earth, they faced numerous obstacles: flooding from nearby sewers that would occasionally fill their workspace with water, a lack of oxygen in their cramped quarters, and the constant threat of discovery by guards who could enter rat hell at any moment. The air was often thick with dust and suffocating odors, making every breath a challenge. At one point, during their digging efforts, Rose experienced a moment of panic when he became stuck in a particularly tight section of the tunnel. The darkness enveloped him completely, and he could hear the faint squeaks of rats nearby. There was nowhere to go. He feared he would suffocate to death or be trapped forever in that dark abyss. However, with sheer willpower and determination, he managed to wriggle free and continue his work alongside his fellow inmates. As they continued digging night after night, setbacks were inevitable. There were instances when flooding caused sections of their tunnel to collapse, or when they accidentally dug too steeply, resulting in cave-ins that forced them to start over in certain areas. But it was the combination of strategy and relentless effort that culminated in a significant breakthrough for Rose and Hamilton's group on the 17th day. After 17 grueling days of laborious digging, the Union officers at Libby Prison achieved a significant milestone in their escape plan. The tunnel they constructed emerged in a vacant lot adjacent to Carr's warehouse, just short of the prison walls. It was a strategic location that would play a crucial role in their bid for freedom. Even though the tunnel had not come out of the prison completely, Rose decided it was good enough if they were discreet enough. Hence, this exit point was carefully chosen for its proximity to the prison and its potential to provide a discreet escape route. The tunnel measured approximately 50 to 60 feet in length and was designed to lead directly from the depths of Libby Prison to the outside world. Emerging beneath a tobacco shed within the warehouse grounds allowed the escapees to avoid immediate detection as they made their way out into the streets of Richmond. The choice of this exit was vital. It enabled them to blend in with their surroundings and walk out through the gate without raising suspicion among the guards. The Libby guards were under the impression that the prison was escape-proof, leading to a false sense of security. As a result, there was less vigilance compared to other prison camps, allowing the escapees a greater chance of slipping away unnoticed. This critical factor contributed significantly to the success of their escape, as it provided them with both physical distance from the prison and an opportunity to navigate through Richmond without immediate pursuit. It was Rose who had dug the final few feet of the tunnel and made it out. With freedom in sight, he could have run for the hills, but Rose had the moral compass not to leave the rest of his comrades behind. It was as much suffering for them as it was for him, so he decided to come back. But time was of the essence, and the inmates could not wait for many days. They had to make their move as soon as possible. So Rose, Hamilton, and the rest decided they would stay at the prison for one more night, devise a plan on how to escape strategically without getting caught, and then make their move after lights out. Then came the night of February 9th, 1864. Anticipation hung heavily in the air as the Union officers at Libby Prison prepared to execute their escape plan. As night fell, The temperature dropped to a chilling 30 degrees Fahrenheit, adding to the urgency of their situation. The team deliberated on how best to carry out their escape under the cover of darkness. They had agreed to send men into the tunnel in groups of 15, a decision made to ensure a steady flow of escapees while minimizing the risk of detection. The escape began shortly after 10 p.m., just after lights out. For over 5.5 hours, a steady stream of bedraggled men crawled through the tunnel, emerging from their cramped passageway into the vacant lot beside Carr's warehouse. The method of exiting was straightforward but required careful execution. After crawling through the narrow passageway, escapees emerged beneath a tobacco shed located within the grounds of Carr's warehouse. Once outside, they had to navigate through Richmond without raising suspicion among Confederate guards or civilians. Stealth was paramount during this phase. The officers moved quietly and cautiously, aware that any noise could jeopardize their chances of success. The initial groups quickly gathered inside the walled yard of Carr's warehouse before proceeding toward the front gate. Their strategy relied heavily on blending in with any other pedestrians who might be out at that hour. They needed to appear as ordinary civilians rather than escaped prisoners. Colonel Thomas E. Rose played an essential leadership role throughout this operation. He was among the first to exit the tunnel and immediately began directing his fellow officers on how to proceed safely. His experience and confidence instilled a sense of purpose within the group as they prepared to make their way out through the front gate. As they walked out into the streets of Richmond, many escapees encountered close calls with Confederate soldiers. Some reported near misses, where they barely avoided detection by guards patrolling nearby areas. By approximately 3:30 a.m., once all had exited, they agreed to rebrick the entrance to conceal their escape route from any potential discovery. By this time, no guards or Richmond authorities had realized the escape had taken place. A total of 109 men successfully used the tunnel that night. Among them were 21 majors and colonels, 35 captains, and 53 lieutenants. As the group of Union officers emerged from their underground tunnel, they scattered in different directions, each following a predetermined plan to evade capture. Some fled toward the countryside, hoping to put as much distance as possible between themselves and Richmond, while others sought refuge among local sympathizers who supported the Union cause. The initial hours of the escape were crucial, as every moment of confusion among the Confederate guards increased their chances of reaching safety. The first sign that something had gone terribly wrong at Libby Prison came on the morning of February 10, 1864, during roll call. As the Confederate guards attempted to count the prisoners, they discovered that more than 100 Union officers were missing. Panic set in as they frantically recounted, struggling to believe that such a mass escape could have occurred right under their noses. Some guards were so stunned that they misinterpreted noises from the escape, with one humorously suggesting it was merely a coffee pot tipping over, unaware that it was actually the sound of prisoners making their way to freedom. This moment encapsulated the complacency that had settled among the prison guards. They had believed Libby Prison to be inescapable, and now they faced the reality that their failure to remain vigilant had resulted in one of the most daring prison breaks of the war. As the full extent of the escape became clear, the guards scrambled to respond. Some were placed under arrest on suspicion of being bribed or complicit in the breakout, adding further disorder to their ranks. The Confederate response was chaotic and slow. Messengers were dispatched across Richmond to alert military units, and a full-scale manhunt was ordered. Despite their best efforts, nearly 12 hours passed before an organized search could begin, giving the escapees a significant head start. However, the guards had one advantage. The Union officers were in a severely weakened state. Months of malnutrition and disease had left them physically unfit for prolonged travel. Many were too frail to run, and their lack of proper clothing made them ill-equipped for the harsh winter conditions. Confederate search parties focused on these telltale signs: exhaustion, malnourishment, and inadequate clothing, as they scoured the nearby countryside. Richmond authorities were particularly alarmed by the prospect of the escapees reaching Union lines. The Confederacy deployed all available troops, on horseback and on foot, to track them down. Of the 109 men who escaped that night, 59 successfully made it to Union territory. Their success was largely due to their familiarity with the terrain, as many had served in the Peninsula Campaign and knew the lay of the land. Some also received critical assistance from local Union sympathizers, including Elizabeth Van Lew, a Richmond socialite who operated an extensive espionage network. Her contacts provided shelter, guidance, and supplies to several escapees. Unfortunately, 48 of the men were recaptured within days. Starved and weakened, many struggled to make rational decisions, leading to mistakes that resulted in their capture. Some were caught while attempting to blend into civilian life, while others were identified by Confederate patrols. Tragically, 2 escapees drowned while trying to cross the James River, misjudging the strength of the current and succumbing to the frigid waters. But what of Colonel Thomas E. Rose, the mastermind behind the escape? Rose made significant progress toward Union lines but was ultimately captured just minutes away from safety. Confederate pickets on high alert spotted him and took him back to Libby prison. Recognizing him as a leader, the Confederates placed him in solitary confinement to prevent any further escape attempts. However, Rose's fate took a fortunate turn when he was exchanged for a Confederate colonel on April 30, 1864. After returning to his unit, the 77th Pennsylvania Infantry, he continued to serve with distinction until the war's end. The Libby prison escape became one of the most remarkable acts of defiance during the Civil War. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Union officers who, despite enduring unimaginable hardships, refused to accept captivity as their fate. Their daring breakout not only inspired other prisoners but also served as a powerful symbol of resilience and determination. Colonel Rose and his men left behind a legacy of courage, proving that even in the darkest of circumstances, the pursuit of freedom could not be extinguished. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel.